In today's episode, Poland Rock's time machine will take you back to the times of the legendary 𝗕ምህ𝗵𝗏. We're going to visit the area of today's Poland that was covered in deserts and active volcanoes. We'll be standing on the seashore, the sea being one big soup of chemicals back then. We'll get to know animals and plants living in extremely difficult conditions. And we wrap up by looking at the most beautiful Polish gemstones and noble metals. The majority of the globe was covered by the gigantic Panthalassa Ocean, which was plagued by unimaginable storms. Poland was then located at the same latitude as the Sahara Desert. In particular, the northern part of our country resembled sandy deserts and semi-deserts. In the south, where tectonic plates collided, huge mountains were formed, possibly as high as the contemporary Himalayas. On the border of the plates, numerous volcanoes were found. Some of them exploded violently. Some others produced slow-moving but destructive rivers of lava. The south of Poland in the Permian period is often described as a monumental semi-desert poisoned by volcanic fumes. Although the climate in the mountains was undoubtedly dry, there were genuine oases brimming with life, humid valleys. There is no doubt that there were even lakes there. It is evidenced by the fossils of fish of the 𝗕आह𝗵𝗫𝗏 family and the freshwater shark 𝗕ah𝗵𝗫𝗏, discovered by Wojciech Pawlak, a PhD student of the biology department of Warsaw University. The sharks had a characteristic thorn, probably protecting them against larger predators. Fish cannot survive outside water, similarly to amphibians. While adult amphibians can protect their delicate skin by producing mucus, they cannot lay eggs and reproduce without access to water basins. In the village of 𝗕आह𝗵𝗫𝗏, remains of a Discosaurus amphibian were discovered, which featured a long tail and electroreceptors, helping the amphibian to find the way underwater.
The real kings of the dry and warm Permian period were reptiles, which had thick skin protecting them against sun rays and dehydration.
Unlike amphibians, reptiles were able to lay eggs outside water. Early in the period, two groups of reptiles emerged, Synapsida and Sauropsida. Pelycosaurs were a group of early synapsids called mammal-like reptiles. And even if it's hard to believe when you look at their lizard-like appearance, pelycosaurs are more closely related to contemporary mammals than to reptiles.
When you've finished watching the Permian episode, I strongly recommend that you watch the episode about Triassic giants, where we presented our largest non-mammal synapsid that was just discovered in Poland. But for now, let's go to early synapsida, to the Permian period, to pelycosaurs.
The largest Polish pelycosaur is 𝗕आह𝗵𝗫𝗏𝗏 macrourus, whose skeleton measures almost 1 meter in length and was discovered in the town of Nowa Ruda. In the towns of Wębierzyce and Tłumaczów, traces were found of a quadruped that is identified as a 𝗕ah𝗵𝗫𝗏 or 𝗕आह𝗵𝗫𝗏. The most interesting traces in Poland were left by an amphibian, though, and to be more precise, by a diadactyd. In addition to the footprints of its paws, we can see there a trace of a tail it dragged, a tail covered in scales.
Oh wait, a moment ago I said that amphibians have soft skin susceptible to desiccation, while reptiles have hard, resistant skin, sometimes additionally protected by scales.
Yet the 𝗕ह्𝗵𝗃𝗃 of 𝗕ᵒ𝗪𝗏 is an exceptional amphibian. The footprints it left are distinctively those of an amphibian, but it is equally evident that its skin was covered in reptilian-like scales.
First, reptiles evolved from amphibians earlier in the Carboniferous. Nonetheless, evolution never works like a magic wand which transforms one animal into another totally different animal in a known time at all.
Such transformations happen gradually through many intermediate forms. The 𝗕ह्𝗵𝗃𝗃 of 𝗕ᵒ𝗪𝗏 is not an antecedent of reptiles because it coexisted with reptiles that had originated earlier. It is rather one of many experiments that nature performed on amphibians, trying to break their water dependence. The dry climate of the Permian made it possible for reptiles to become dominant among other animals. Among plants, conifers were favored. Back then, Poland was populated by, among others, the extinct genus 𝗕ᗕ𝗰𝗶𝗽𝗶. Apart from these, cordytails and tree ferns continued to thrive.
I think our today's trip with Poland Rock's time machine is really interesting and picturesque. Before we move on, please leave your like and let me know in your comments if you'd like to go on such a trip if there was a travel agency offering it. If so, what would you like to do in the Permian?
Before we move on to the late Permian, let's have a look at the beautiful gemstones that the Permian volcanic activity produced. Polish agates, especially the ones found in Puszki Górne, are considered to be among the most beautiful in the world. Also beautiful and interesting are septarians and melophyres that look as if they were cracked, with visible bubbles, remains of volcanic gases. The collision of tectonic plates in the Permian, accompanied by high pressure and temperatures, helped to form Polish deposits of marble in Lower Silesia. Polish varieties of marble include white Marianina and green Marianina.
If you want to know more about this, please join our closed group on Patreon, where you can contact us.
We are moving now to the late Permian, about 260 million years ago. The Zechstein Sea enters the territory of today's Poland. It resembled today's Dead Sea a bit, but it was much, much bigger. Within around 10 million years, the Zechstein Sea dried up several times, which helped to form huge deposits of salt. This is how the majority, but not all, of Polish salt deposits were formed.
Check your kitchen salt. If it comes from the 𝗕ዀowice-𝗕ૠ𝗱 mine, you can say you eat the powdered Zechstein Sea.
But it's not the salt that is the biggest treasure of this sea. Apart from salt, its sediments contain gas, petroleum, metals, including rare earth metals, copper, noble metals, that is, gold and platinum, but above all, silver. Nowadays, Polish deposits of silver are estimated to be the largest in Europe and the 5th largest in the world. It's a similar situation when it comes to copper. Poland has the 5th largest copper resources in the world. Although copper may be less exciting, it is an equally important metal. It was copper that helped mankind to progress from the Stone Age. It was crucial in antiquity and in modern times. In the 20th and 21st centuries, it has regained importance in connection with the advancement of electrification. On the land, in the dry climate, Sigismund conglomerate was formed. The rock was used to build the King Sigismund's Column, a monument erected in the 17th century in the Warsaw Castle Square. The Sigismund's Column became a symbol of the city, and the Permian rock was named after the king. Although it looks impressive, Sigismund conglomerate is prone to erosion and not resistant. For that reason, in 1887, the base of the column that was made of conglomerate was replaced by a new one made of Italian marble. The column was blown up by the German Nazis in 1944. What is now the column basis was erected as late as in 1949 and made of Polish granite.
The semi-desert Poland of the Permian period with the warm and salty sea would be a great holiday destination. But for our next trip, I recommend something slightly different.
In the periods to come, in the Triassic and Jurassic, Poland moved to the subtropical and tropical zones. Both dinosaurs and Synapsida kept evolving and growing bigger and bigger. Enjoy the show!